Hello friends, myself Darshana Patel, working as an assistant professor at VS Patel College of Arts and Science BCA BBA course. I am over here to teach RDBMS. This is the first video of my lecture series on Relational Database Management System. In today's session, I am going to give you a brief introduction on RDBMS and then we will cover Dr. E.F. Code's rules for RDBMS in details. So now let's start with what is RDBMS. What is RDBMS? RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management System. RDBMS is a database management system based on relational model defined by E.F. Code. We are going to look at the EF Code's model in next topic. Data is stored in the form of rows and columns. So as shown in figure, the student's information is stored in student's table in the form of rows. That is, the record of each student is stored in the form of row, and each row consisting of several columns. Similarly, the first name column will store the first name of all the students. The relations among tables are stored in the form of tables. That means student table and course table has a relationship. Why? Because student enrolls in a course. Now this relationship is also stored in the form of table. That means in RDBMS everything is stored in the form of table. Each student is enrolled in a course and the relationship is shown in the figure, where both the tables have common column, that is course ID. RDBMS uses normalization technique to avoid redundancy in table. So what is redundancy? Redundancy means storing same data at multiple locations. Now when we use normalization technique, that means when we normalize our database, when we normalize our tables, then there are minimum chances of duplication of data. So normalization is the process of breaking down the larger table into smaller tables and then linking this table using relationship. Thereby, it removes the abnormalities related to insertion, updation and deletion. Now since the table is normalized, there will not be any problem related to insertion of data or updation of data or deletion of data. We had already covered normalization in detail in our DBMS subject. Now some of the examples of relational database management systems are SQL Server, Oracle, MySQL, etc. Features of RDBMS. First, the data is stored in tables. The data persists in the form of rows and columns. It creates index for quick data retrieval. So what does this mean? So index in RDBMS is similar to the index at the end of the book, where topics are arranged in alphabetical order and the page number is written besides it, so that the topic is quickly and easily searched. In the same way, the tables in RDBMS have indexes created on primary key, so that the data can be quickly and easily retrieved. Next, it allows various types of data integrity. So what is data integrity? Data integrity refers to the accuracy and consistency of data. Data integrity can be achieved through entity integrity, referential integrity, and domain integrity. This we had already seen in DBMS. Next, it provides facilities like primary key, unique key to identify each rows. So what is primary key? Primary key is a column or combination of columns used to uniquely identify all the records within a table. Similarly, unique key is also a column or combination of column that is used to uniquely identify all the records within a table. Next, relationship among tables is created by sharing common column in two or more tables. we had seen in first slide that there is a relationship between a table between student table and course table. Why? Because student enrolls in course, so there is a common column between student table and course table, and the common column is course ID. So thus this means that the relationship between the tables is created by matching primary key in one of the table with foreign key in second table. So in our example, course table has course ID column. So the course ID column in course table is primary key, whereas course ID column in student table is foreign key. It provides multi-user accessibility. That is, the data in RDBMS can be accessed by many authorized users. Advantages. First, it is easy to learn and use. That means RDBMS supports standard language that most of us are familiar with, that is SQL, structured query language. The syntax of SQL is simple, so anyone can learn and understand. Next, it is secured in nature. Now, unauthorized users cannot access the data. In addition, the permissions are assigned to each individual regarding what activities they can perform and how much data they can access. For example, suppose there is an employee table. So, maybe all employees of that company can access employee table. However, it is possible that some fields or some columns, say for example salary column, is hidden from all the employees. Only few employees at the higher position can be permitted to access such sensitive column. Why this? Because if everyone can access salary column, then they might increase their salaries, and this is how RDBMS provides security. Next, data manipulations can be done. So, say for example, user can add, edit, delete and view the data as and when required. Next, it limits redundancy and replication of data. This means that the tables in RDBMS are related to one another, and so there are minimum chances of duplication of data. Say for example, student table and course table. Student is enrolled in a course. Now we are not going to enter course name when the course is starting, everything again in students table. Why? Because it is already stored in course table. So there are minimum redundancy or duplication or replication of data. Next, it offers better data integrity. So RDBMS has constraints that can be applied on table so that the data remains accurate and consistent throughout the system. We have already seen integrity, right? Next, it provides better physical data independence. So what is physical data independence? Physical data independence means the ability to modify physical schema without causing application program to be rewritten. It means we can change physical storage or physical storage device without affecting the conceptual or external view of data. We will be seeing this in detail in code's rules. Next, it offers logical database independence. So what is logical database independence? It means the ability to modify logical schema without causing application program to be rewritten. So logical data independence means if we want to add new columns or remove some columns from the table, then the user's view and programs should not change. Next, it provides better backup and recovery procedures. So backup is a copy of data. The backup can be local or it can be on remote site. So this means that you can keep the copy of data in your own computer or near by your site, or you can store this copy of data at some other location at different place at different server. Now the backup of data is taken to safeguard against unexpected loss and application error. So what does this mean? Suppose if original data gets corrupted, or due to some reason we lose the original data. So if we have backup, then we can obtain the original data without any loss. So RDBMS software provides backup and recovery operations so that if system failure occurs, then the data can be recovered. Next, it provides multiple interfaces. So what is interface? Interface means the platform through which user can interact with database. So many user-friendly interfaces are available in the form in different forms, such as forms, graphical user interface, natural language interface. Next, multiple users can access database. This means that more than one user can access a database at any given time. So if the data is being changed or updated by a user, then RDBMS provides locking mechanism so that when one user is changing a particular record, then other user cannot access that record at the same time. And the last is maintenance. With RDBMS, maintenance is easy. A built-in automation system or automation tool is available, and with the help of this, database administrators or technicians can maintain, repair, control, test, and even back up the database. Disadvantages. First, cost. Cost can be in terms of hardware and software. Cost can be in terms of staff training. Cost can be in terms of data conversion. So let us look at each of them in detail. First, cost of hardware and software. For RDBMS, it is mandatory to have high-speed processors and also a large amount of memory size, because nowadays there is a large amount of data in every field which needs to be stored safely and with a security. The requirement of this large amount of space and a high-speed processor needs an expensive hardware and expensive software too. Next, cost of staff training. Educated staff such as database administrator, application programmers, data entry operations who maintain the database management systems are required. Now, a huge amount of salary needs to be paid to such experts. Now, if we don't hire experts, then we will have to train our staff for performing RDBMS operations, and that also involves a huge amount of cost. Next is cost of data conversion. Once the database is set up, you need to enter information into the database or import it from existing records. This can be time consuming and thus can be expensive. Also, there is a need to hire database system designers for data conversion, and we have to pay a lot of money to such database designer. Other cost, say for example, if our database is going to contain sensitive information like credit card number or Aadhaar card number, you will need to ensure the information is secured against unauthorized users, which adds another layer of cost to the implementation. Next, limitation in structure. What does this mean? Now, many relational database system imposes or sets limit on the length of the data field. So if you enter more information into a field, then it can accommodate, then the information will be lost. Say for example, suppose the maximum size for character data type is 2000 bytes. So if a user wants to enter more than 2000 bytes for that field, then the data cannot be stored in that field. Next, isolated information. Because relational database can use large number of tables, there is always the risk that some information may be lost or forgotten, usually when there is a transfer from one system to another. This is usually problem for large organization where they use different database system. Introduction to Codd's rules. Dr. E.F. Codd was a computer scientist who invented relational model for database management. Codd's 12 rules are actually a set of 13 rules numbered from 0 to 12. These rules were proposed by Dr. Edgar F. Codd. According to him, a database must obey Codd's rules in order to be regarded as a true relational database. So if suppose I want to say that Oracle is an RDBMS, then I cannot simply say that it is RDBMS. First, I have to prove that it obeys Codd's rules. Only if it obeys Codd's rules, then that particular DBMS software can be considered as RDBMS software. Codd's rules actually define what quality a RDBMS system requires in order to become an RDBMS. Till now, there is hardly any DBMS product that follows all the 13 Codd's rules. Even Oracle follows only 8.5 out of 13 rules. Codd's 12 rules. Now let us look at each of these rules in details. So rule 0, that is foundation rule. Now what is foundation rule? For any system that claims to be RDBMS, that system must be able to manage every aspect of the database entirely through itself using its relational capabilities without using any external language. This means that all the processing in RDBMS must be done by the RDBMS software itself. It should not take the help from external procedures or other languages. Now, what is meant by relational capabilities? Relational capabilities means in a relational table, the table is a relation because it stores the relation between data in its row and column format. The columns are tables attribute while the rows represents the data records. Two or more data tables can be joined together for viewing, editing, or creation of reports. Rule 1, that is information rule. This rule says that all information in the relational database is represented in exactly one and only one way, that is by the values in table. This rule means that all information in a relational database, including table name, column name, data types, constraints, etc., should be represented in table format. Everything in database must be stored in table format, whether it is user data or metadata. Metadata includes all information such as table name, column name, data type. Tables that store such information are parts of data dictionary. Data are represented in only one way, and that is as the values within columns and rows. Each cell should have single data, that is, each cell should have atomic value. Now, rule 2, that is guaranteed access rule. This rule says each and every datum, that is atomic value, is guaranteed to be logically accessed by using combination of table names, primary key value, and column name which we want to access. This rule means that data must be logically accessed using table name, primary key, and column names. All data should be accessible without ambiguity. That means there should not be conflict while accessing data. There should not be any uncertainty, or there should not be any problem while accessing this data. This can be achieved using combination of table name, primary key and column name. Now since we are using primary key, we know that primary key column will not allow duplicate value, and primary key column will not allow empty space, and so each record can be uniquely identified. Thus each record can be accessed. Now, no other means such as pointers can be used to access data. That means only query languages should be allowed to use the data. No other means, like in C, C++, there are pointers, but database should not be accessible using any such pointers. They must be accessible strictly using query language. Rule 3: Systematic treatment of null values. Null values are supported in the fully relational database for representing missing information in a systematic way. Null values are independent of data type. That is, null values have no data type. Null values are distinct from empty character string, or a string of blank characters, or 0 for numeric. That means null value cannot be compared to blank string or 0. Thus null has several meanings. It can mean missing data, or not applicable, or no value. It should be handled consistently, uniformly. Now what does this rule mean? This rule means that if any of the value for a cell is unknown, or not applicable, or missing, then it cannot be represented as empty or 0. So it must be represented as null. This null should be used irrespective of the data type used for that cell. That means null can be used for any data type, whether it is character, date, numeric, time, any data type. That is, null has no data type. A null value is distinct from empty string or 0 value. However, null cannot be applied to primary key. That means the column that is defined as primary key, for that column we cannot use null. Now rule 4: Active online catalog. The data dictionary, also known as metadata, is represented at the logical level in the same way as ordinary data. So authorized user can apply same relational language to query the data dictionary as they apply to regular data. Now what does this rule means? This rule means that metadata or data dictionary should be maintained for all the data in the database. This metadata should be stored in table in the form of rows and columns. It should also have access privilege. Now what is access privilege? That means if we want to access data dictionary, then the user must have rights to access that dictionary. Then only the person can query data dictionary. If the person is not having right to query that data dictionary, then it cannot query. Next, in short, this metadata or data dictionary should also obey all the characteristics of a database. Also, it should have correct, up-to-date data. So we should be able to access this metadata by using same query language that we use to access normal data in the database. Rule 5, Comprehensive Data Sublanguage Rule. This rule says that RDBMS may support several languages, but there must be at least one language that should allow users to do all of the following activities, that is data definition, data manipulation, data integrity, and database transaction control. Thus, it must enable user to define table and views, query and update the data, set integrity constraints, set authorization, and define transaction. This rule states that any RDBMS should always be accessed by using structured query language. This query language should be able to access the data, manipulate the data, and maintain consistency and integrity of the database. The query language should make sure that the transaction is fully completed or not done at all. This means transaction should never be in the middle of the state. Either it must be completed till it ends, or it must be rolled back to as if nothing had happened. Example of such language is SQL is a language for all RDBMS software. That means for any RDBMS software to access or to manipulate that to manipulate the data within that software, a language is provided, that is SQL, structured query language. This language is divided into sub languages such as DDL, that is data definition language, that allows us to define the tables, DML, that is data manipulation language, DCL, that is data control language, TCL, that is transaction control language, etc. Now, if the tables or data dictionary can be accessed by any other language and cannot be accessed by SQL interface, then it's a violation to this rule. Rule 6, View Updating Rule. This rule states that all views that are theoretically updatable are also updatable by the system. So what is view? Views are virtual table created by using queries to show only a part of the table. That is, views are a subset of table. It is only partial table with few rows and columns. So the view updating rule means that each view should support the same full range of data manipulations that can be done on tables. This means that all the operations such as insert, update and delete that can be performed on table must also be performed on views. In practical, providing update and delete access to logical view is difficult, so it is not fully supported by current database. Now let us understand it by taking an example. Suppose there is a student table, and on the top of this table we have created a view called student view. Now the student view will have few columns from the student table. That means if student table has 10 columns, we are going to take say 4 or 5 columns in this view. Now, so according to this rule, all the operations that can be performed on student table must also be performed on student view. But this is not possible. Why? Because view consists only few columns. Rule 7, High Level Insert, Update and Delete Rule. This rule states that a database must support high-level insertion, updation and deletion. This must not be limited to a single row, but the system must support set at a time insert, update and delete operations. So now what is high level? High level here means to have effect on multiple rows from multiple table with a single query. Now the system must support set at a time, insert, update and delete operations. This means that data can be retrieved from relational database in a set consisting of data from multiple rows and or multiple table. Thus, this rule states that insert, update, and delete operations should be supported for any retrievable set rather than just for a single row in single table. Apart from this, it must also support union, intersection, and minus. Now let us look at an example. Suppose employees get 5% increment in a year. Now this increment is applicable for all the employees. Hence the query should not be written for updating the salary one by one for thousands of employees. A single query should be strong enough to update the entire employee's salary at a time. Rule 8, Physical Data Independence. This rule states that any change in physical schema of a database must not have impact on how the data is being accessed by conceptual view or external applications. So, the physical data independence means that the user or application programs are isolated from the physical method of storing and retrieving information from the database. Now, the alteration of physical schema may include using new storage device or using different data structures or switching from one access method to another or using different file organizations or storage structures. The physical data independence exists in most of the database because the exact location of data on the disk, the hardware details of storage encoding, the compression, the merging of records, etc. are hidden from the users, and the SQL commands the users execute are independent of the location of the database. The physical data independence deals with hiding the details of storage structure from users' applications. For example, in case we want to change or upgrade the storage system or we want to replace the hard disk, then these activities should not have any impact on the logical schema or external schema. For example, if the data stored in one disk is transferred to another disk, then the users viewing the data should not feel the difference or delay in access time. They should feel as if they are accessing the data as they were accessing before. The user should be able to access the data as they were accessing before. For example, the location of database, if changes from C drive to D drive, will not affect the conceptual view or external view, as the commands are independent of the location of the database. Rule 9, Logical Data Independence. This rule states that application program and terminal activities remain logically unaffected whenever any changes are made to the logical view. Logical view is also known as conceptual schema. So this rule means that alteration in conceptual schema may include addition or deletion of entities, that is tables, attributes, that is columns, or relationships, that is primary key, foreign key. And this should be possible and this should be done without altering existing external schema or without having to rewrite application program. This means when we make any changes to the conceptual schema, then application program must not be affected. Now we may change the conceptual schema to expand the database or to change the constraint or to reduce the database. The external schema must remain unchanged for most of the changes in logical schema. This is specially desirable as application software does not need to be modified. For example, if two tables are merged or a table is split into different tables, there should not be any impact or changes to the user's application. Now, this is one of the most difficult rule to be applied because application program are closely tied to conceptual schema. Rule 10, Integrity Independence. This rule states that integrity constraints specified to a particular relational database must be defined in relational data sublanguage and stored in catalog, not in the application program. This means that integrity constraints must be independent of the application programs using it. That is, constraints must be modifiable without any changes in the application programs. The integrity constraint must not be stored in the application program but must be stored in the data dictionary. By doing so, the integrity constraints remain independent of the front-end application. A relational database must maintain integrity constraints and should not allow any applications or end users to violate these integrity constraints. A good relation RDBMS should be independent of the front-end applications. The primary key constraints, foreign key constraints, check constraints, triggers, and so forth should all be stored in the data dictionary. A database must support minimum of two integrity constraints, that is entity integrity constraints and referential integrity constraint. Rule 11, Distribution Independence. This rule states that the data manipulation sublanguage of a relational database management system must enable application programs and terminal activities to remain logically unaffected whether data are physically centralized or the data is distributed. This rule means that the DML operations of relational system should not care whether the physical data is centralized or decentralized. The database should continue to work properly even if it is on a single system, on a local computer, or if the database may be distributed across a network of systems remotely. The end users must not be able to see that the data is distributed over various locations. The user should get the impression that the data is located at one site only. Even if the data is located in different servers, the accessibility time should be comparatively less. The user should feel that the data is coming from one place. This rule has been regarded as the foundation rule for the distributed database management system. Rule 12, Non-Subversion Rule. This rule states that if a relational system has or supports a low-level, that is single record at a time language, that low-level language cannot be used to bypass the integrity rules or constraints expressed in high level, that is multiple record at a time relational language. This rule means that there should be no way to modify database structure other than database language like SQL. There should not be any method to violate the integrity constraints defined on database. Only the language or sublanguage, say for example SQL, which was used to define the constraint, can be able to redefine them. That means if the constraints are applied using SQL, then those constraints can be redefined only using SQL. So when a query is fired in database, it will be converted into low level language so that it can be understood by the underlying system. Now, in such a case, when accessing or manipulating the records, a low level language should not have any loopholes that alters the integrity of the database.